When the last Apollo astronauts left the lunar surface in 1972, NASA had every intention of sending more manned missions to establish a permanent presence up there. But as years stretched on, something changed. The return to the moon was continually scrapped and delayed. Officially, funding dried up, public interest waned. But the truth is far more sinister. I learned the real explanation in 2012 after my grandfather passed away. Going through his possessions, I discovered a locked box containing his logbooks and photos from working mission control for Apollo 15. He'd taken these secret records to his grave. As I pored over his detailed technical logs, everything seemed routine, until I reached the transcripts from the astronauts' final lunar EVA. Right as they prepared to lift off, an anomalous signal was received from the IMB antenna. The cryptic message captured made my blood turn cold. CMS, they know you are here now. Alter plans immediately. Do not land again. Houston demanded the astronauts explain who was communicating and how. But the panicked astronauts confirmed no one had transmitted any signal. It broadcast directly into their headsets from an unknown source outside their ship. Earth eagerly awaited details on the bizarre warning, but the rest of the crew's transcripts were missing. Only my grandfather's later private journal entries referenced the eerie event. Mission haunted by unknown threat overriding our comms. Possibility of powerful lunar entity monitoring Apollo presence deemed extremely credible by all involved. Further landing attempts strictly prohibited. We have awakened something that cannot be put back to rest. God help us all. I struggled to accept what I was reading. A sentient being from the moon had directly contacted Apollo 15 and warned NASA to stay away? It couldn't be real. But I kept digging through my grandfather's treasure trove of records. I discovered lists of inexplicable equipment malfunctions on the lunar surface during prior Apollo missions. Communication blackouts, radiation spikes, cameras mysteriously shut down. It painted a pattern of this strange lunar force possibly interfering. It seemed NASA had been experiencing problems since the very first landing. I pulled up the declassified Apollo 11 mission transcripts and found this buried exchange after Armstrong's giant leap for mankind. Buzz, you getting static now too on comms? Keep losing signal. Mission control, please confirm receiving me. Houston, read you loud and clear, Buzz. Your signal is strong. Buzz, very odd. Now I hear something, faint pinging pulses every few seconds. Interference with my headset. Houston had no explanation, but insisted it must be some issue with his equipment. Their hardware couldn't be responsible. But I believe the ominous pinging Buzz heard was evidence of that mysterious lunar entity studying the first human on its domain. Watching, warning. Indeed, Apollo 11 experienced numerous strange technical glitches during descent, spacewalk and ascent back to dock with Columbia orbiter. Each event I now understand as the entity subtly influencing outcomes under the veil of equipment failures. After this discovery, I became obsessed with learning all I could about the enigmatic force that dissuaded us from returning to the lunar surface. Poring over thousands of pages of NASA archives showed me the chilling scope of its capabilities, and how determined it was to disrupt mankind's presence. During Apollo 14's climactic landing, the same pinging sounds perplexed astronauts in the lunar module. As they prepared to descend, their guidance systems failed completely, nearly causing a catastrophic crash. Only manual piloting saved them. Later, their communications blacked out for minutes just as they rejoined the command module, cutting them off from mission control. The entity was ramping up its efforts mission to mission. When Apollo 16's crew did make a successful landing, the entity unleashed its most brazen interference yet. John Young recounts spotting two mysterious saucer-shaped objects observing their activities from a crater ridge. His testimony from the surface on a secure medical channel reveals his shock. "John, Houston, you need to see this. We have company up here. Two craft above Smoky Crater watching us. Disc-shaped, small but visible. Houston, please confirm, John. You spotted actual vehicles on the moon? Can you describe details? Over. John, affirmative, two saucers overhead right now. Maybe 30 feet diameter, lit from within. Silver. Changing position and flashing periodically. Damnedest thing I've ever seen, Houston. Cameras are tracking now. You receiving feed? Houston? The communication went dead at precisely that moment. But the classified photos sent directly from their chest cams were leaked decades later. And they show exactly what John described. Two bright identical saucers hovering on the horizon as the astronauts went about collecting samples. The entity made direct contact when it was ready. After this warning went unheeded, things escalated rapidly for Apollo 17, the final mission. These brave astronauts experienced the entity's capabilities firsthand. Their testimony and transcripts reveal increasingly frightening events as they explored different areas, with each accident growing more dangerous and bizarre. A camera blackout as they photographed an artificially constructed-looking monolith in the distance at an excavation site. The entity did not want this area seen. Malfunctioning life support systems reporting extreme radiation spikes during EVAs. An unseen force penetrating their ship. Observation of distant humanoid shadows along the crater rim before precise equipment failure cut their feed. Chilling. But the most terrifying encounter came toward the end of their third EVA. The astronauts' transcripts capture it best. Cernan, okay, I see the rover ahead. Let's get this last soil sample and call it a day. This headset pinging is getting on my last nerve. Let's finish up and, wait, you seeing this, Jack? Looks like footprints. Heading straight from the rover toward that ridge. Schmidt, clear as day, Gene. But they just end here, mid-step almost. Bizarre indentations too. Not ours for sure. Houston, please advise what you're seeing. Footprints, did you say? We don't have any EVA suits unaccounted for. Schmidt, they disappear about 50 meters out, mid-stride like something lifted off. Maybe 15 steps worth. Fairly small, but no boot prints I recognize. Possibly alien origin? Houston, please collect photographic evidence so we can analyze. Proceed carefully. Cernan, Christ, Jack, this is getting nuts. Footage coming your way, Houston. But we're in full sunlight. The terrain is totally undisturbed except these prints just suddenly appearing. No logical explanation I can see. Houston, understood, stand by. We have the photos. Analyzing now. Schmidt, really wish you could see this firsthand, Houston. Because logic has left the damn building. These narrow prints just end halfway up the slope, as if whatever made them took a leap into the black. The evidence cutoff is picture perfect. Like this entire sighting was staged for our benefit somehow. Getting a very unearthly feeling here. We need to finish up and get the hell out. Houston, agreed, 17. Wrap up and begin heading home immediately. We have much to process from this final excursion. That chilling exchange says it all. The entity allowed only a glimpse of itself for the last men we set on the moon. A glimpse that shook NASA to its core. Weeks later, the agency abruptly ended Apollo altogether. They realized we were not welcome there by something ancient and powerful controlling the lunar surface or subsurface. The many mechanical failures were warnings to turn back. We had encroached on territory occupied long before mankind arose on Earth. Whatever intelligence governs the moon did not appreciate our presence interfering with its domain. The few astronauts who did witness glimpses of its power know the truth. That's why Buzz Aldrin and others in recent years have pushed for us to return against all resistance. They want closure after this haunting glimpse into reality's cracks 50 years ago. A brief connection with the greater cosmos. But NASA will never risk disturbing that which watches eternally from the cold lunar surface. We were lucky to escape unscathed after those brief years of exploration. Some missions likely failed entirely, covered up and erased. Humanity is woefully unequipped to comprehend what has existed patiently on Earth's lone satellite billions of years, before we arrived with footprints and flags. We should not have ventured uninvited. Curiosity meeting such ancient might makes for a feeble contest indeed. But we now know we are not alone or the first. The veil is quite thin if one knows where to search. My grandfather helped push humanity against forces never meant to meet. In the end, he advised we leave such beings be. There are truths beyond our scope. But I know now why we never returned to the moon after 1972. The ones who guided our rocket ships wisely stepped back from a lethal precipice. Those final brave astronauts are the only humans who have gazed upon a slumbering titan and lived to speak of it. We should not mistake luck or indifference for hospitality if someday we venture out again unannounced. The stars teach humbling lessons. Sometimes terrors lurk not where we aim our lens, but reside beyond, watching steadily, just out of frame. They do not require weapons or ships. Only our slow realization they have been staring back far longer than we've been looking up. So for now, Earth's emissaries have retreated from the moon's secrets. But I know the ancient ones are still observing, waiting patiently for us to overreach again. A cosmic inevitability given mankind's foolish pride and curiosity. Pray when that day comes, we may know enough to bow gracefully before their timeless wisdom and fury.